Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Patrick, the podcast where I sit with a guest of mine and we talk about whatever we want. Today on the podcast, I have a lovely friend of mine. It's Jessie. Hi, Jessie. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. It's kind of a cloudy, overcast, rainy day today, the day that we're recording on my end. But
Mm-hmm.
I thrive in that kind of weather environment sometimes. I know I'm weird like
Not
that.
me. I'm a sun junkie.
I know we've talked about this where I'm doom and gloom clouds and you're sun and happy sunshine, and I'm like, "Bleh." But we both thrive in our elements. So we were kind of talking before the podcast started, and we were like, what do we want to talk about? And you said, you know what? I want to go deep. I want to go into like some deep, crazy, like
Let's get into
existential
yeah.
questions. Let's just dive right on in.
Yeah.
So,
Go big or go home.
go big or go home. Why
Well, we are
not?
home, but
Well,
so let's
exactly.
go big.
Let's go big. So, why don't we just get started and kind of see where the conversation takes us from there? So, how about I start with a question for you?
Okay.
So, do people have the right to be happy or should they earn it?
Earn it is a gross thing to me. Um, I've like done I think I've done like a lot of work over the last I guess a lifetime to kind of like I think everyone sort of has this perception that they have to like earn happiness or like earn a life or like that their worth is like somehow determined by what they do or what they don't do or who like what they do to other people or what they do in their career or like stuff like that, and it's just like really unhealthy for people to live that way, I think. And it's taken me a really long time to come to terms with the fact that like my worth does not depend on those things, and that as long as I'm like trying my best to do what I can in life to like be a good person, whatever that is defined as for me, then I think even that um doesn't define your worth. Like you're worthy no matter what. So I don't think you need to like earn happiness, but I think like understanding your inherent worth like gives you happiness. So I guess it's less about earning it and more about just like knowing it. And then once you know it, it's easier to get it.
So I think people are just genuinely born happy. I mean, when you're a young child, you're just happy, in my opinion. It's the outside factors that kind of bring you down, and like growing up, society kind of adds all this stuff that's like you need to earn happiness to be happy, money and a job and a career and this and that. But like simpler times as a kid, you don't need any of that. You're just happy. I mean, it's obviously given to you because your parents have worked for it, or
Mhm.
family or whatever. But if we took all that away, usually kids are just happy for the most part.
Yeah, it's interesting because I completely agree with the whole like societal pressures thing. We also tend to like, as a society, see people as like less worthy if they're not like doing everything that society says you should be doing, regardless of the reason.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think, like really unfair because a lot of it comes down to like social determinants of health or like access to things or like what neighborhood you grow up in or who's around you or like just there's so many variables that you don't control that like have a huge impact on how your life turns out. And like to me, that should not be something that determines whether you get to be happy or not. And then also like about kids just like inherently being happy. Like when I was born, I had like awful colic, so
Oh,
I was like a miserable baby. And then once that stopped, I was like a very happy baby, but I had night terrors.
oh, jeez.
So like, I mean, I think overall, like during the day, once I got over the colic thing, I was like a pretty happy kid. But I also started out kind of like sour, you know? But like 100% agree with the whole society thing that we need like a huge shift in what people are offered and what they have access to and how we like make up for the variables they can't control
Yeah.
that either make them feel like that or make it so that they're not able to, you know, be happy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, are any of us that happy? Who knows, I guess. But I don't think we should have to earn it, I guess,
I
is what I'm
agree.
getting.
In the end, we both agree we shouldn't have to earn it, period.
True. Bottom line.
Bottom line. Now, do you have one for me?
Sure. You seemed very excited about this one, so I'm going to lay it on you. I might not have a lot to contribute, but I think you'll have a great time.
Okay.
So, which apocalyptic dystopia do you think is most likely to happen?
Ooh, okay. So, there's a few different ones, right? So, there's like we'll say like the Mad Max type where it's like, I've never seen Mad Max, but I've
Oh,
seen like snippets of it. And I just see like shaved headed people like with like all this like makeup and like tattoos and like these like heavy armored plates and vehicles and they're like rah kind of and they have to like fight each other and stuff. Or there's like, and I've never seen this movie either, The Hunger Games,
mhm,
where it's like these different class societies and they have to like fight each other to like
mhm.
come out as number one. Or I mean, if we really think about it, there's so many different dystopias. There's like the 1984 George Orwell's one where Big Brother's watching you, or
Mhm.
that's like similar to Black Mirror, um, where it's also kind of like there's so many different scenarios in that where it's like the rating system, kind of like an Uber thing, but you rate
Okay.
people. So like if you walk out and you're not dressed nice and everyone's like, ooh, we give you bad ratings, that affects your overall rating. And then depending on your rating score, determines where you can live and what you do for work and how much money you make. So it was like
Oh my God.
and then there's like the classic like I had to read in like high school it was oh my goodness, what was it called? Uh Great New World or Great World or by Huxley. Anyways, and that was also kind of like a classism type things where you had like the alphas, the betas, the deltas, and things like that. And they all wore all the same colored clothing, and that was
Oh.
to differentiate them. And the alphas were the better ones and better than everyone else. And so, uh, do I see most likely happening? I think we're already very close, and I know this is a little, but I think we're very close to like a Black Mirror 1984 kind of situation already where Big Brother's watching you. Yes, in the book. I don't know if you ever read the book, but in the book they had TVs everywhere and it was like actually the government watching you through the TV, so they could watch you in your living room, this and
Yeah.
that, and you had to be careful what you said or what you did and this and that because if not, you're in trouble. So I kind of see that slightly already happening,
Mhm.
and I could go all crazy conspiracy and be like, it's the government watching us and judging us, but also kind of like Black Mirror, we already do that to ourselves so
Mhm.
much. We judge each other so quickly on everything. So I see it more kind of like that aspect of we're going to get very self critical and that depends and things like that. I think, and I'm not like evangelizing our generation, but I think our generation is trying to stop things like that to an extent, like, being more open minded and being more open to everything and everyone, like all shapes and sizes. All races, all sexual orientations, different gender identities. So I think we're trying to like break down that barrier of judging people based on things like that.
Mhm.
Obviously, a lot of work has to still happen,
Hmm.
But I think if we don't take the steps that we're doing, even though sometimes it might come off as like harsh or abrasive with like cancel culture and things like that, I think if we don't do that, we could very easily dip into that kind of world.
Hmm.
And based on that, since you haven't really seen any of those movies or read those books, what do you think just from kind of what I said?
So, like, I don't even really know like the definition of apocalypse, so I don't know what that really means. But I kind of agree with what you're saying in that, like, in my view of it, I think we're kind of already there. Like, to me, we live in like what I would consider kind of a dystopian situation. Like, that everyone is so separate and that we don't have this like global responsibility and that like there are still places where people live like even in our own communities where people live with like so much less than others, or under so much more scrutiny than others or like that sort of thing. And I do agree that like and I hope that like our generations and the generations after are like making positive movement towards like a more um like human like community,
Yeah.
right? But I would say like I it scares me that it could get worse than this because I think it's so bad already. Um and I really really think that we need some sort of like universal like self-healing shit, right? Like
Yeah.
we all need to like get down into ourselves and like figure our own shit out and then like reach out to like our neighbors and be like, how do I help you? Right? Like, so if I'm able to like access resources and help myself get out of that sort of place where I feel like I need to like judge other people or be better than anyone else or like that sort of thing. If I can like heal that within myself, then like if there's someone near me that can't do that, like can I reach out to them and like help them through that?
Yeah.
And I think we just need like a universal like thing like that because we can't keep going the way we're going or we're going to be in huge trouble. But I do agree with you. I think we've like tried or are trying to like make changes in that and it's just the like global need for that like overwhelms me, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you think about it too hard, it's terrifying.
Hmm.
And it's a lot. And I mean, we don't know what the future holds. I mean, none of us saw, I'm sure some people will claim that they saw the pandemic happening, which
Yeah.
I mean, probably because history always tends to repeat itself. So if you look at the past and other viruses and things like that, but we don't really know what's going to happen. It's obviously not going to probably be the exact same thing that we're dealing with right now, but it could be greater, larger, more terrifying than we can even imagine. And yeah, that's a little scary, but I mean, I'm like, hopefully they'll be after I'm not here anymore. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think we're trying very hard, and I think that's what happens is humanity tries very hard to learn from their mistakes to make things better. But I think also the issue is then like focus shifts from one thing to another thing to fix
Yeah.
that, but then the other things start falling to the wayside, which they can't, and then that becomes an issue and
Yeah.
things like that.
Well, and I find that even with like scrolling through social media, I get like really overwhelmed. Like I have to like take a break from it sometimes because there are so many things happening that like pull at me, right? And then it becomes like exhausting
Yeah.
that you can't like help in every situation.
Hmm.
And so we really do need that like more like fundamental shift in like healing and like the whole like um start in your own house, like heal your
Yes.
own house and then like just kind of like spread out.
Yeah.
Um, because it just gets very like I have friends or know people who are affected by or involved by like all different kinds of really, really hard things. Um, and so to pick one to
Hmm.
attack seems unfair, but you can't do nothing.
Yeah.
and you want to do everything.
Yeah.
And then you also need to like find time to fix yourself,
Yeah.
right? So I guess the whole thing is we need to start with ourselves, but it is it's a lot. And then when it gets overwhelming, you just have to like go back to basics, right? You're like, what's the like next one thing that I can do that feels right and makes sense? But
Yeah, I agree.
it's freaking daunting though.
It's daunting, but that's kind of why we're talking about it. It's like heavy stuff, and we know it's super heavy and like you can't take on the world.
Hmm.
But like you said, start at home.
Hmm.
And that's exactly it. And it depends whatever that so happens to be. It could be helping the environment by recycling more, even.
Yeah.
That just that tiny little thing might not seem like a lot, but it's a lot. It has
Hmm.
an impact in the end.
Well, it's kind of like just a lens shift, right?
Yeah.
Like seeing your life through a lens where like if you and every little choice, right? It's like every small choice you make, how does that impact like the bigger picture? And it seems like nothing, but if everybody sees it that way, if everyone uses that lens of like if if this thing that I'm doing, if I do it this way, what impact will that have? And if I do it that way, what impact will that have,
Yeah.
right? If we kind of take that responsibility on and more people do that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it ripples,
Yep.
right? But I don't know. It's all about like every right little next choice, which it's hard when you feel overwhelmed to go to remember that.
It's that butterfly effect almost.
Hmm.
Exactly. So let's put a pin in that one and move on to the next question because I
Okay.
feel like we'll just be like, oh my gosh. So, a question I want to ask you is what do you think two people must have in common to connect with each other? And while you're thinking, I want to preface it for people. So while you're thinking, two people have in common, it could be a lot of different things. Some people, it might be their political beliefs. Some other people, they might think, oh, it's my race or my gender or my sexual orientation, or I don't know, I donate money to this charity and so does this person. So it's a wide range. But to
Mhm.
you, now that I think you already have an answer, but what is it that you think two people need to have in common?
So I guess I'm not really sure how to like articulate it, but to me it's less of like a thing or an identity or um like some any factor like in that way, and it's more of like just like a willingness to see the other person.
Mm.
Like any two people, like you and I, or like me and Ryan, or like anyone, those two people have to just, the only thing they need to have in common is a willingness to see the other person like truly,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to have the same religious beliefs or the same political beliefs or the same any type of anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? As long as you're willing to look at that person as a person
Yeah.
and say, like, we're equals here. And where do we go from there? Right? Like, if you start on like a level playing field, then it doesn't really matter. You can connect, right?
Yeah.
But the issue is with that is that both people either have to be willing to do that or one person has to wait for the other person to get there.
Yeah. Because I 100% agree with you. But then, because when you're talking about it, I'm like, no, absolutely. But I already see some people having that quote unquote superiority complex, which happens all the time where it's like, oh, we don't have the same religious beliefs. My religion's better, though. Or the
Mhm.
same political beliefs. My political leaning is better than yours because
Mhm.
of this, and this. But like you said, we don't have to have those things in common. It's the willingness to listen, be open minded, and just be open. It doesn't mean that I agree with everything you say or you do,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's just being human, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, because you'll never agree with everything that someone says. Like,
No.
I've never met a single other person in this world who I agree with completely,
Yeah.
right? And I'm sure there are lots of people who care about me, but who disagree with me about a lot of things.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's really, and part of that is recognizing when that's just not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
If someone else is so closed off that they're not going to let that happen, then there's nothing you can really do about that. You just remain open. And if they open up, then fine. And if they don't, like, move on.
Yep. I agree.
Can't connect with everyone.
Nope. Cannot. All right, Jesse, hit me with a hard one.
Okay, okay, ready?
Okay.
Okay. You want to like a real deal
Oh, geez. Okay.
controversial one?
I'm nervous, but go for it.
Okay, so do you believe in a power greater than humanity?
I knew I had a feeling that was the question you were going to ask me. All right. So let's get deep here because this is what we're all about, you and I. We're getting deep. So,
Mhm.
oh, geez, that's hard. So,
Mhm.
okay. I grew up in a religious household. So I was brought up to believe in a higher power, we'll call it. Um, and then, like, growing up and learning more things and stuff, and I know it sounds like I'm just trying to give a very diplomatic response here, but growing up and stuff, I learned different things in like science and nature and different things like that. And then, so I'm someone, and I think there's actually a definition for it, and I think it's called agnostic,
Okay.
where it's not that I believe in a higher power, but I'm not closed off to the idea.
Mhm.
I would be very open and willing to believe in a higher power, but I need like tangible, solid proof of that to fully place all my beliefs into it, which I have a hard time doing right now because I it's one of those things where it's like I don't like having blind faith. I know we have to have blind faith in a lot of things. Like you have to have blind faith that the pandemic will come to an end, or you have to have blind faith that you'll I don't know if it's for you finding true love and getting married or whatever. You need to have those things. So I'm not against anyone that believes in a higher power. Absolutely not. I'm also not against people that don't believe in a higher power. For me personally, I need the evidence to believe in it, but I'm open to it.
Yeah.
So no. I I guess truly the answer is no, I do not believe in a higher power at this present moment. What about you though? Turning the tables.
Um, it's a tricky one because like no one knows anything,
Mhm.
right? There is no knowing. Like extremely religious people may claim that they do, but they don't know.
Mhm.
Um, I guess in my like personally, it's more of like I need there to be something rather than I believe there's something.
Right.
Because to me, like I require there to be a purpose to my life.
Of
Like
course.
I need to have a purpose. I need for what I'm doing to be worth something, for it to be like meaningful in some way or part of a bigger picture or it's impossible to me that like the connections I've made with people or the things I've done in my life or like the like magic that I've seen or the like serendipitousness of things that is just like nothing. Um, so I do not subscribe to any religion. I do not consider myself a religious person. But I do like need there to be something that's bigger than this because I can't accept that this is meaningless. And then the other part to that is like kind of like, okay, well then like what happens when you're dead or you just like don't exist anymore? And to me, the thing I need to happen then is that I understand like why everything had to be the way it was and what my role was in it and that sort of thing and like what the purpose was of all of this stuff. So it's like I don't really have like a solid like belief system, but I need for those things to be true in some way. so that I can continue to live the way I feel like I should, I guess.
And absolutely. And it's funny because one of the things they talk about, like whenever like they talk about like mental health or anything or balancing different things, they always talk about like the certain pillars. So you've got like your work, you've got your home life or like family, and then you've got this, and then you've got spirituality.
Hmm.
And whenever I used to see the word spirituality, I automatically thought, oh, spirituality, religion. But
Hmm.
then thinking about it more, it's no, spirituality doesn't mean religion.
Hmm.
Spirituality is far deeper than that. It's what is your belief system? What do you believe in? And what like fulfills you, like spiritually and stuff. So I kind of know what you mean in the sense of I say a phrase all the time that's like, it happened for a reason. Even though I'm like, I don't believe in like higher power unless there's proof. Yet I say it happened for a reason. Yet
Hmm.
if I'm already contradicting myself right there, being like, well, really? Where's the proof? If like, you know what I mean?
What
But
is the reason?
what is the reason? But I that's my I guess spirituality will say is I believe in that for myself because kind of like you said, I need to have some form of something to believe in, so it happened for a reason. And I don't mean that for everything. Oh my gosh. So anyone listening, if you're like,
Yeah.
well, it's like, no, I don't mean it for everything. No, I don't mean it for every death that happens on earth.
Hmm.
Please don't come at me for that because that is not what I mean. But yes. So I like that you went for a toughie.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm going to go for a toughie and then we'll have to end this part of the podcast. I
Okay.
know, so soon. But here we go. So, do we want others to be more like us or do
Ooh.
we want to be more like others?
Hmm. Do we want others to be more like us, or do we want to be more like others?
Mm-hmm.
Can I say neither?
Okay, yeah. If you have
Uh,
a reason.
yeah, I guess I would say neither. And I would say that we all just have like this sort of like innate need to like belong to something. So whether it's like you change yourself to belong and fit in, or like you want others to be more like you so that you don't feel alone, or like I don't really think it's like, what was the question? Was it, do we want?
Do we want others to be more like us or do we want to be more like others?
Yeah, I would say neither. And I would say that we just like have this need to belong to something, which I think like also kind of like loops back to our like spirituality thing where like people cling to things to belong to something and to feel like they're like part of a community or part of um that they like fit in, right? So if you can find something like that you can believe in common with someone else, it's like easy to like attach to that and have it like become your identity, I guess. Um, but yeah, to me, like neither of those is really true. It's more that like people will kind of desperately search to belong. And whether that means that you change or like you adapt or like you wish more people were like you, like either way, it's really just like a fundamental need to belong.
Oh, Jesse, that was a really good answer because you pretty much hit the nail on the head for me because I was going to say, yeah, at first I feel like we want to be like others, but then there comes a point where we're like, no, we want others to be like us, but no, it's just we want to find a common ground. And the main root of it all is because we want to belong. And I agree.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes like down to the very like bottom of it, you want to belong and you want to belong because you want to belong and be able to be yourself.
Hmm.
Like you want to like authentically belong. You
Hmm.
don't want to like pretend you like, I don't know, because you want to belong to something, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so I think that's part of why people like do so much of that, like flip-flopping and searching for new things and whatever. It's because like they're looking for that belonging, but what they really need is to just be able to be who they actually are and still be like accepted and part of something and just be themselves, which is like, I mean, seems really hard for people to do.
Absolutely. I agree. And on that note, we're going to have to end it on that deep, thought provoking answer. So I want to thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Did you have a good time?
I did. Thank you for having me. It's always a good time
Absolutely.
chatting with you, though.
Same here. And thank you to our audience that was listening or watching on the YouTube channel. Don't forget that you can find this podcast wherever podcasts can be found: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the list goes on, any other platform. Also, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can always email me at realtalkwithpatrick@gmail.com. Again, that's realtalkwithpatrick@gmail.com. And until next time, I hope everyone has a lovely day. Goodbye.